Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about customer experience. Finally, we are talking about customer experience. And I want to throw it over to you, Karen. We're talking about specific programs that you'd like to highlight. Tell us about one.
Yeah, absolutely. So during the pandemic, many government agencies experienced just crazy call volumes, and they'd never seen that before. At the same time, they needed to move employees to remote locations. With one particular customer, we discovered that anytime there was announcements of federal aid, that would just stir up a ton of questions from the public and just flood their call centers. And they spent some time updating website information. However, that does take some time, and the calls would continue to come in. So we were able to quickly develop a natural language chatbot on the voice channel that could handle frequently asked questions to particular, policies or new things that were announcements coming out. And that was able to reduce the load on the human agents needing to answer the calls. And this particular customer was able to increase the number of calls they were able to answer by 30%. And that was all just due to the deflection of the more common FAQs being able to be handled by the bots.
Very interesting. It just always amazed me at how much weight we were stacking on that infrastructure almost overnight, and how brilliantly all of you responded to that. It's just absolutely incredible. And again, enhance that customer's experience, that's for sure. Gary, how about over at your organization in regards to a specific program that you'd like to highlight for us?
Yeah, what I'd like to highlight is what was done in conjunction with the debt relief effort, consistent with the presidential mandate and Secretary Cardona's priorities. And this was predominantly handled by Federal Student Aid and that team over there. But I got to tell you, there was a phenomenal effort on their part in order to basically deploy a capability for 25 million students to be able to enter their data so that they could be factored into the debt relief effort. Part of that effort was heavy architectural review, as well as back-end reviews of currently what we had, how we can leverage that, and then how we can make a simple and easy-to-use interface available to the students, irrespective of whether they had previously logged on to FSA systems or not. But we wanted to make sure that any student who was eligible had the capacity to do so. So, there was a simple interface that was done, and then it would allow for, in fact, it could be done within about 2 minutes based on the student entering their specific data. And then we would handle the back end reconciliation with existing FSA systems behind the scenes. All of that was done within about 2 months. And it was a phenomenal achievement. Nominal issues, if at all, occurred as a result of that. And the program really was highly successful. And again, hats off to the team over at FSA, Meg and Purdue. Just brilliant engineering behind the scenes and a lot of heavy lifting that went on in order to accommodate that.
In a very short amount of time to come up with a very elegant experience. So we certainly really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Charlotte, how about at Granicus? Can you give us an example of a program that you'd like to highlight that perhaps you've been able to partner with one of these agencies and help them enhance our experience?
Right. Granicus is at 5,500 state, local, and federal agencies. So we have a huge install base.
Wow, that's a big number.
It is. It's a huge number. A lot of people, encounter it without really knowing that. I think when people think about communications or strategic comms in government, they often think about newsletters. At best, maybe an update, maybe an occasional email here and there. But for us, strategic communication is a method of helping programs go from awareness to adoption. And sometimes that awareness and adoption makes more sense in our private lives, right? When we, take off from the middle of a form and we get a reminder email, things like that. So I think we can get the conversation further along when we think about, how email and SMS kind of forward along in our private lives. But in government, we have a program that we're really proud of that we did with the U.S. Department of Labor. It's called the Higher Vets Medallion Program. And at the moment, they didn't have a big advertising budget or to get billboard or television spots. So they had to rely on organic growth. And this program was a reimburse or a cost recovery model, right? Which a lot of agencies are familiar with. Like they have to make this money back from the program itself. So how does strategic communications and, a program like that work together is that we organically grow an audience, we segment, target, and personalize people who may be interested. And the outcome was 127% growth in accepted applicants for the Higher Vets Medallion program, 58% increase in program revenue and applications for year 2 and 3, 232 repeat applicants, and many of them 3 times repeat applicants. So to us, communication, creating that engagement and relationship is the measurable trust we're talking about. And it's the measurable impact we're talking about when we say comms and CX are tied together.
Very good catch there and very good stitch. And I love the hardcore metrics, by the way. I think everyone can certainly appreciate that. Beth, you teased us with this TSA airport experience. You want to give us an example of a program that I'm sure there's many that you'd like to highlight that sort of explains the essence and elegance of the customer experience.
So I'm going to start with DHS OCIO because we're leading with the rollout of our burden reduction initiative. That resulted in commitments from our component agencies to reduce hours of burden by May 30th, and we have exceeded our 20 million hour goal. Across the components, as I mentioned, we've got a number of hugely successful CX initiatives. The Transportation Security Administration, as I mentioned, is implementing mobile driver's licenses and partnering with airlines to offer touchless access from curb to gate. So what this means is you will be able to use your driver's license in your wallet, in your Apple Wallet, to access the gate and move yourself through the evaluation phase, and also to manage your baggage. And so, during COVID, we spent a lot of time looking at ways to reduce the physical touch between, say, TSA or CBP and the public for everyone's safety. And so this touchless mobile driver's license and interaction at the airlines is really an initiative that not only will save time, but it's healthier, and it's making every part of the process smoother, better, faster, safer. We have a couple of other ones with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, reducing processing times for immigration benefits. As I mentioned, Customs and Border Protection with streamlining vessel entry and clearance at seaports. And one of my favorites, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, working with the Office of Management and Budget and the Small Business Administration to create improvements at disasterassistance.com. FEMA simplified the policies for disaster survivors to prove their residency or homeownership when they're applying for assistance. And these updated policies reduce the paperwork burden for disaster survivors to ensure that they receive the additional assistance necessary during probably the worst time in their lives. So those are a couple of the highlights of what we're doing at DHS, and we're really excited about what we're going to be doing this year.
Wow, we really do appreciate you outlining those various very important programs. Simca, I really do appreciate you pointing out the various missions under USDA, the food safety, the food programs in the schools, et cetera. I think often people either might not even know about those, or just don't have a vast appreciation of that. Give us an example, if you will, of a specific program in one of these areas that you'd like to highlight, that you've really sort of been able to enhance that experience for that individual, that entity, et cetera.
Absolutely. And it's one that I've given an example before, but I'm really excited to be able to share today some of the upcoming modernization efforts. But again, due to a lot of the back end work that customer experience and design and some of these teams really put an emphasis on. So there was a program at USDA at a farm service agency called direct loans for farmers. And these loans are really created as an opportunity for a farmer who cannot get a loan, usually at a bank, or does not qualify to get a loan, to really get that initial support for that equipment, for those resources to get their farm up and running, so they can continue to be prosperous in their livelihood, really. And with this particular loan, the thousands of farmers that it helps today, it is quite complicated. It is a very manual process. It is a lot of research went into understanding their experience. So we went to farms, we went to the offices, looked at how they're processing these loans, really kind of looked at that hands-on experience, that phone experience, all the things that they really had to do to get through the door. How do they even know about it to begin with? Somebody mentioned awareness earlier in that journey. And in all of that research, all of that data is still being used today in some of the design that they're doing to improve that direct loan process. So one of the projects that the team has worked on very recently is reducing the burden even in the application process. We looked at the application, took it apart, looked at how we can simplify the content of it, looked at how we could simplify the length of it. So it actually went now from 29 pages of an application all the way down to 13 pages, which is the tremendous, almost half of the size of this form. And that, along with some other electronic capabilities and fillable forms, are going to be released in March 1st of 2023. So really around the corner in terms of an improvement that's directly going to impact these needed farm services. Some other ones upcoming as well is, as simple as it sounds, even to make a payment online. And those kinds of opportunities are now going to be seen also in 2023. So we're just excited to kind of start to see these features come into fruition, and really, again, using a lot of that human-centered perspective in our design so that we're properly meeting those needs accordingly.
Right. And cutting the form length in half, and meeting those farmers where they are. I love it. I love the idea of getting out there on the ground, putting yourself in their shoes, and working through that experience. Well, we're going to start talking about priorities. Gary, I'm going to start with you. There's always a lot of them, but we'd love to focus on the top 2 or 3. In regards to what's the focus this year in regards to priorities?
Yeah, I would say that the focus, as I mentioned earlier, that we have both an inward and outward focus. So let's talk inward. Which
is a great catch, that there's internal customers, there's external customers.
Absolutely. So from an internal perspective, our predominant focus is really to have direct engagement with the various assistant secretaries or principal operating component directors to ensure that we are understanding specifically what they want to do, both tactically and strategically, and then where our priorities are aligned with theirs, where we can massage those, manage those, alter those, so that we are in lockstep with what they need to do, and then where there are disconnects, begin to raise those through the governance bodies to ensure that we are getting in front of those and then managing expectations accordingly. So if there are shortfalls, what do we do about those shortfalls? Can we accommodate those shortfalls? Or if not, then let's raise the visibility at the leadership levels that there is a shortfall in this particular area. What do we collectively do about it? So we are both meeting individually with the POC leadership, as well as once that occurs, then we're going to have routine follow-ups as well, because we've also realized that we've got a lot of metrics. We rely upon those metrics to do a lot of various things. But at the end of the day, you can say that you have 99% uptime, but it really doesn't matter if the individual can't log onto their system for that particular day. So, I think it's been easy for, various organizations to rely upon those metrics and say, well, hey, everything seems to be fine because that's what my metrics are telling me. But when you actually engage the customer, sometimes you realize that that's not actually the case. And so we're trying to get in front of that use metrics where they make sense to use them, but actually have that direct engagement so that we are aligned 100%. I'd also say from the outward perspective, massive effort underway with ed.gov modernization. Secretary has been laser focused on this to ensure that we are getting the information available, that we are really revamping the ed.gov experience. We have a rather archaic implementation at the moment. And, so we're putting all effort in to ensure that that experience is really Amazon-esque, Google-esque, so that people can go in and search for various information and it becomes available to them in real time, so that the information that they need is available to them in a quick fashion, and that they can use it however they need to in order to maximize what they need to get out of the Department of Education.
Sure, always room for improvement there, and you always want them to encourage them to come back.
Absolutely.
Beth, how about over at DHS? I know the secretary just outlined a whole host of priorities recently, and no doubt there's 2 or 3 top priorities for the customer experience effort. Can you outline those for us?
Sure. So, we all know the public expects the same level of service from the government as they'd get from any private sector organization.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we at DHS have an obligation to ensure that we're delivering the best customer experience possible. In order to do that and to support this entire initiative across DHS, we've stood up a customer experience directorate within the Office of the Chief Information Officer. And we'll be spending a lot of time this year building out that office so that we can develop the customer experience community across DHS. And so, as we've mentioned, customer experience, that's more than just customer service. It's how an individual perceives all of their interactions with DHS. And that, as I mentioned, can run quite the gamut of mission capabilities. So we're focused on human-centered design. We want to increase equity, accessibility, and transparency in our services. So, if someone's interacting with, whether it's a website or directly with one of our DHS employees, that they're able to understand and access the services in the most equitable way possible. We want those benefits and services to be timely. We want to improve our credibility, right, and our trust among the public, and where possible, cost savings, cost avoidance. So again, I think our number one priority is creating a robust customer experience directorate, so that we can provide leadership across the department and develop the capability within all of our components and bring everyone up to the same level of expertise. One thing we've done already to fill out that organization is we did a pretty substantial hiring action, and we recruited widely. I mean, we went into non-traditional backgrounds, underserved communities, looking to attract and retain a qualified and inclusive, diverse talent pool. We're looking for product managers, we're looking for designers, and I'm happy to report we've been able to onboard quite a few, and in the coming months we'll be able to really build out that community up at DHS headquarters, and also offer the opportunity for our components to hire these capabilities out of that hiring action. The other thing, I'm going to put an ask out there for our industry partners too. And,
love it.
So, DHS, we spend about $8 billion a year in technology. And so obviously we're working with a lot of the vendor community. And so we would ask that our industry partners are bringing people with the proper skill sets around UX and UI to their software development teams. We're going to build out that capability internal to DHS in every place that we're delivering services and capability. But it would be really, really useful to see our vendor partners engaging in the same way and developing those skills within their organization, so that we are bringing the best community of practice to everything we do in the federal government.
It's a great ask, and I appreciate you doing that and using this platform to do that. And I love the idea of building this community at the department level and allowing that to sort of federate its way down to these operating components and ensuring the diversity. That's a great catch there. So fantastic to hear all that. We're going to take another short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News network.